So on behalf of the family of Midge, I welcome all of you here as we are brought together today by the bond we share of the passing of Midge Jones that embodied and from the physical to the eternal. We are here to celebrate her life with both joy and sadness. Joy in who she was, sharing that, sadness that she's gone from us. So today, we all celebrate the joyful spirit of laughter that embodied Midge in our midst. We're going to add something to the calendar schedule, a poem being read by one of the members of our youth group, Sean Dean. In front of the microphone.
Hello. Today I'm going to be reading a poem called You Meant So Much by Cassie Mitchell. You meant so much to all of us. You were special, and that's no lie. You brightened up the darkest day and the cloudiest sky. Your smile alone warmed hearts. Your laugh was like music to hear. I would give absolutely anything to have you well and standing near. Not a second passes when you're not on our minds. Your love will never forget. The hurt will ease in time. Many tears I have seen and cried. They have all poured out like rain. I know that you are happy now and no longer in any pain. Thank you.
Thank you. On Sundays, we have a statement of faith, a belief that we say, and we're going to do a different one today. This one was actually written by Midge, and it's in your handouts. So we'd like to do it together. Everybody got it ready? Love produces a flow of energy that I now feel. Love flows from one person to another in this sanctuary. I feel the love flowing from others to me. I am changing. I am loving others more than ever. And I feel privileged to be here in this fellowship. I feel that everyone is doing as God wishes, loving God and loving each other. We are creating an atmosphere of holiness.
And so beautiful.
So we might have to start using that more often. That was beautiful.
All the songs that we'll sing together are in the loose leaf notebooks. The songs are essentially in alphabetical order. So, how can I keep from singing? My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the reel of far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my life. How can I keep from singing? But though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, it give it. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? Tyrants tremble when the bells of freedom ringing. since I know. How can I keep from singing?
Now we have her daughter, Jenny.
Yeah, I can do that. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Sorry for the mix-up on the timing, but here we are. So, I had some papers. I had a whole biography written out, and I'll tell you what, it's difficult to put 94 and a half years into a short amount of time. So, the easiest thing to say about my mom was that she was the biggest influence on my life ever, for many reasons. For one thing, she overcame many tragedies. She was born right before the Depression, and right after the Depression came World War II. And so her description to me of that time was that there were no men. There were no men, and she lived in New York City. She was born in New York City. In fact, she was born on the very same day as Jimmy Carter, who sends a birthday card every year. Yeah, I thought that was pretty special. So she had, as I said, tragedies were things that she had to overcome. Her mother had a hysterectomy that I guess there was no therapy afterwards, and she ended up in a mental institution. And my mother told horror stories about visiting. And I think eventually my grandmother was okay, but my mom had to live with other people for a while. Then she was very, very shy, and that's kind of hard for most of us who knew her now, right? So anyway, she was very shy until she got to high school. And she went to a special high school called Erasmus, and it was kind of an academy. And that was in Brooklyn also. And she made friends, and she got to be more outgoing. And so my favorite part about these friends, and these were people who were like in each other's weddings and stayed in touch all their lives. The group called themselves the Happy, Hopeful Hens. So politically incorrect today. Anyway, so that was one group, and then she also, she was raised Baptist. Her father was like an elder or a deacon or whatever the proper term is in the Baptist church, and she decided maybe not when she was a teenager, and she found the Episcopal Church, and it had beautiful choir music, and it had rich language and ritual and beautiful, I mean, I would have called them cathedrals, but churches. And so she decided with her brother to join the Episcopal Church. And so she joined the choir as well. So she loved to sing. That's where that one song just came from. And she met a couple of really key people for the, key parts of the part of her life that I would call the romantic part. So she met her first boyfriend / fiance because they did get engaged, and of course because of the war, I think he probably volunteered for the Army Air Corps, which predates the Air Force, and he loved flying. And so long story short, because this is a really hairy story, on his last leave he was supposed to be with her, of course, and he didn't show up, and he didn't show up, and he didn't show up, he didn't call. And then finally on the last day he came and he asked for the ring back, and she was just devastated. And here's the short part of the story. His mother had drugged him so that he could not visit my mom. And every time she told that story, I thought, wow, Mom, we are so lucky that that person was not our grandmother, because she doesn't have the qualifications to be a grandmother. Anyway, so she was devastated, and she didn't have any resolution to that because his plane crashed before she ever, got to have a real conversation or figure out what was going on or anything. So anyway, I think it was St. Paul's Episcopal Church, she also met these two women whose last name happened to be Jones, and struck up a friendship, and these are now my Aunt Dorothy and my Aunt Ella. And so when their Hollywood handsome brother came home from the war, well, guess what? He was, I guess, an okay replacement for the first fiance. So anyway, they got married on Thanksgiving Eve. And that was exactly the same thing that her parents had done. Also, my sister did the same thing. And so there was wheat in the bouquets and vegetables up on the altar and so forth. So because World War II, all the GIs came home kind of at once because World War II ended, and then they were all free people, I guess, there was a housing crunch. And so my grandfather, that was the Jones part of the family, lived about 4 houses away from the Jubin family, which was my great-grandmother. And she owned property, and she let them live upstairs in an attic apartment that was essentially illegal because it was so dangerous, and it was probably like the 4th floor. Anyway, so a tiny, tiny little place. They didn't have a kitchen sink. They had a bathroom sink. Mom said she washed all the dishes in the bathroom sink and then put them on the ironing board to dry, and she said, you wouldn't believe how many dishes I broke, because ironing boards, yeah. Anyway, so they painted it up, and they got a little furniture, and so I was born approximately a year and a half after they got married, and they stayed in that apartment until my sister was born 3 years later. So then it was too small, really too small. So they started house hunting on Long Island, and it was pretty rough because, man, some of those houses were so expensive. The house that they bought was $8,000, and they just barely could make the $56 a month payment. So that was insurance and mortgage. So anyway, most of what my father did that I can remember was he was a car mechanic. And he seemed to be really good at it, but he was always, whatever he did, he was perfectionistic and slow. So, people would tease him about that, but my mother always said, but when it's done, it's perfect. So anyway, they lived on Long Island for, that's still the house that she had to leave to come here because of Hurricane Sandy. So they did enjoy themselves, and one of the things that Mom wrote probably the most about, I was kind of looking at her memoirs last night, and she didn't make it through the whole 94 and a half years either. So anyway, there's probably another one, because as I was going through her room, I opened up the bottom dresser drawer, and a lot of her writing is in the dresser drawer. It's like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do. But anyway, so the thing that she wrote the most about were vacations, and vacations were almost always road trips, and they were always very close by, because Mom saved her writing money for that, and Dad's money went for all the bills. So I think my mother was a financial wizard, because there wasn't a whole lot of money. So they went to New Hampshire, and they went to other New England places, and we went to Niagara Falls and Mystic, Connecticut, and a friend's home in Pennsylvania. And we did either shared or other people's homes, those kinds of things, because we didn't, have the money to spend on hotels and stuff. But anyway, I just remember them as being fabulous. And I learned about nature partly from my mother, partly from my aunt and uncle in Massachusetts, and partly from my mother's father. For the grandkids, it's the redheaded grandfather who sang the silly songs. So he was a Boy Scout leader, and she just knew that as a kid she wanted to grow up to be a Boy Scout. And she was devastated when she was told that, no, girls can't join Boy Scouts, until now. But yeah, I know, it's like, well, okay, in those days. But she could tie the knots better than half the people, and yeah. So she had a huge, wide-ranging interest, and one of them, when they lived on Long Island, was garden club. And so she learned how to arrange flowers, and she learned how to garden also from her father. And so she loved gardening, and she loved books, and some of her book club members are here today. Thank you very much. And let's see, and conversations and laughter. She always said she loved to laugh, and some of us were able to make her do that. So she really enjoyed that, and they belonged to the little Episcopal church down the street, and my father could walk to it. And what came out of that was the couples club, and they had supper every month, and they had entertainment, and they were just totally fun and silly. And I remember those because, when the morning came and the alcoholic beverages were still out, oh man, it's like, why would anybody do that? Okay. It's probably how I had my introduction to cigarettes, too, and it only took one puff, and it was like, man, people are crazy. I apologize to anybody who smokes at this point, but it wasn't for me. Anyway, so life went along just fine, and my sister was 3 years younger than me, and I was 17 and she was 14 when my brother was born. So that was a surprise. My mother was 42, and that was kind of traumatic for her to be thinking about because her arthritis was already bothering her. And so my sister and I just said, "Oh, Mom, we'll help you," and we basically did. I was a senior and most of the year after he was born, and it was so fun to come home and take care of that baby. That's probably where I learned most of my skills, except my mother was our 4-H leader. And so we learned first aid and babysitting and all different kinds of cooking and leadership and demonstrating, and I was a shy kid too. And so thanks, Mom, and 4-H, because we had to speak in front of crowds all the time. And so you either got over it or you dropped out, I guess. But anyway, I also went to 4-H camp and became a counselor. And long, long ago, I thought when I first went to college that people would kind of pat girls on the head. "Oh, a girl going to college. You're going to be a nurse or a teacher?" And it's like, I'm going to be a research biologist and cure cancer. So I apologize because I didn't do that. But when my firstborn was a year old, I realized, wait a minute, I've been a camp counselor, I've been a Girl Scout leader and a 4-H leader. I've done teaching type things all over the place, and I really enjoyed that. So I finally capitulated and became a teacher, and I've been happy about that. And I still am, because I'm still teaching. Anyway, so Mom was kind of a Renaissance woman, and I'm sure that each of you has, a special aspect of her life that you appreciated especially. But she was an incredibly influential part of my life, and I'm absolutely grateful for that. So thank you all for sticking with me for, it wasn't a sermon. It wasn't as long as a sermon.
Jane Voss is going to sing you one of her own songs. And you're welcome to sing on the chorus if you've heard it before or second time it comes around.
And I think you'll get why we felt this was appropriate to sing. Other's company and find our hearts in rhyme. For all that separates us now, I'd like to think it's true, as you're part of me, so I must be a part of you. A twinkling on your forehead
Okay, we're doing meditation with Marion. What? Yeah, I'll read it out.
I have a new best friend here. Yeah, Claire. Oh, the stool goes with, so you can have that. This is the first time I've used this, so we're just, bear with us for just a moment. Thank you, George.
Okay.
We got it.
And grab the microphone.
Okay?
Great.
Okay. Let's see, first, are we doing the meditation first or the story first? Okay. This meditation is a revised version of one of the stories in Rainbow Bridge. And it's a story of, it's a meditation of comfort and healing, and it comes from Spirit. And if Hoyle is ready, if you all just make yourselves comfortable. For this meditation, we'll do it a little differently. We'll just begin with the title and end with Namaste. So the title is Living in the Oneness. We would speak to you of that which is really a rebirth, a beginning, a laying aside of that which has been fulfilled, which has fulfilled its purpose. Dear ones, the source of all life, whether on earth or in the heavens, is the creator of us all. And so it is that across the unimaginable vastness and glory of the worlds his hands have made, love is a circle, forever expanding and never ending. Each of you who remains in the physical body after the passing of a loved one, be comforted, for those who are near to you are dear to you. Know that they are a part of your lives and that the caring and the sharing between you continues. Their loving guidance and support remains as true, as strong, as endearing, and as wise as it always has been. In other words, they are your robustly energetic, highly enthusiastic cheering section. Take comfort in the knowledge that the bonds of human love that have flourished through many lifetimes are strong and sure and eternal. When the emptiness of seeming loss would enter your heart, when the restlessness of grief would enter your being, we would ask that you take comfort in the closeness of your loved ones who are in spirit. Dear ones, love is always near. Love permeates. Love never lessens, but only grows. Those who have physically left know your sorrow, and they long to dry your tears. Allow those loved ones to dry your